Minions, the rise of GRU villains abound in this action-packed origin story. What does it take to become a world-renowned supervillain? Minions, the rise of GRU, Illumination's latest installment in the Despicable Me franchise out this Friday, explores this question and more as it traces the origin story of everyone's favorite power-hungry supervillain, GRU, Steve Carell. Set in the 1970s, Minions, the rise of GRU situates itself in between Minions and Despicable Me timeline-wise. The Minions, including Kevin, Stuart, Bob, and a new braces-clad Minion named Otto, Pierre Coffin, have just answered GRU's wanted ad and are now helping their mini-boss build his first basement lair, design his first set of super weapons, and carry out his very first super scheme. GRU, though, is ready for the big time. He's ready to join the Vicious Six, a notorious supervillain supergroup, and he's fairly certain that's a leap he's got to make on his own, without the Minions' help. Meanwhile, the Vicious Six have ousted their leader, Wild Knuckles, Alan Arkin, and are hosting interviews to fill his spot. While they do initially extend an interview invitation to GRU, once this 11-year-old boy shows up, the group is unimpressed. They don't need some kid tagging along. Yet just as this notorious crew underestimates GRU, he outsmarts them, setting in motion the film's non-stop action heist adventure. GRU is on the run, the Minions must learn Kung Fu to save him, and it's not long before GRU realizes that even the most despicable villains are better off with friends by their side. Starting with the original Despicable Me, this franchise has always hit its strongest stride when pairing the wild action sequences and insanely creative weaponry of villainous heists with tender-hearted moments of empathetic connection. One of the most powerful aspects of GRU's character from the onset has been the fact that his cold, power-hungry heart thaws for the people who matter most. Whether that's his eventual adopted daughters, his faithful minions, or other villains struggling with loneliness and insecurity, GRU's superpower has always been connection, proving that he does deserve the love his mother never seemed interested in showing him. Here, in his origin story, we get to see this essential core nature of his character on full display in a way that aligns well with where we know his story will eventually lead in 2010's Despicable Me. This movie positions GRU as a naive, impressionable, yet at the same time wise beyond his years boy at its heart, but the film's lifeblood is a fun, fast, bounty of villainous vendettas. Instead of focusing too long on one storyline, a trap the original Minions movie seemingly fell prey to, this heist bonanza switches from storyline to storyline faster than a gaggle of whack-a-moles. This frantic energy keeps the momentum at top speed, constantly leaving us on the edges of our seats, wondering when each of these villains, all chasing one another to varying degrees, all desperate to achieve their various goals, will collide and what mayhem will then ensue. Why are these children's movies about world-dominating villains so fun? Because at their core, they are not about anything evil at all. Minions, the rise of GRU, like the other Despicable Me films, uses the guise of villainy to explore how broken people turn to ambition and validation to compensate for all the love missing in their lives. While we may not all be able to relate to or approve of a little boy who cheese-rays innocent bystanders or fart bombs an entire movie theater, we can instantly feel compassion for that same little boy's desperate search for validation. GRU wants more than anything to join a group. To be wanted. And even though his sweet minions have already adopted him as their fearless leader, he wants more. He wants better. More prestige. Over the course of this film, it's the exploration of that desperate search for connection and validation that imbues a silly animated movie about evil supervillains full of heart. At the end of the day, we see that even the evilest of supervillains benefits from a little collaboration and companionship. Minions, the rise of GRU proves that even the worst of the worst, as it turns out, get by better with a little help from their friends. Minions, the rise of GRU in theaters this Friday, July 1, 2022. The third Saturday in October, / Homage experiment with nostalgia. For horror fans, a title like The Third Saturday in October reads as a playful spin on popular slashers like Friday the 13th. For college football fans, it's a day on which the Alabama-Tennessee football rivalry game usually takes place, at least until 1992. Writer-director Jay Burleson melds them together in a retro-styled slasher parody meant to be viewed after its follow-up, The Third Saturday in October Part 5, Our Review. While more effective in its pursuit of period recreation and dedication to the tropes, it's not as lively or as breezy as its sequel predecessor. It's October 1979. Ricky Dean Logan, Darius Willis, and Vicky Newton, KJ Baker, lean on each other for support as they attend the execution of Jachariah Harding, Antonia Woodruff, the serial killer who'd claimed the lives of their children. After Harding's gruesome death by electric chair, Ricky and Vicky attempt to move on with their lives. They don't get very far. Harding's escaped death and targets a college football gathering as his latest slay ground. Ricky and Vicky may be the only ones who can stop him. While the filmmaker drew from multiple influences, it's Halloween that largely shapes this film. Tongue-in-cheek humor remains the core intent in Burleson's slasher, but it's toned down in the attempts to emulate the first entry in a slasher franchise. Ricky is the Loomis to Harding's Michael Myers. Harding's escape from death and the authorities adhere to Myers' steps in fleeing Smith's Grove Sanitarium. Instead of babysitting duty, the virtuous final girl, Heather Hill, Allison Shrum, accepts a party invite to watch the Alabama college football event of the year. She might as well be a babysitter, though, as the newcomer and teetotaler of the group. Recurring motifs between films get more pronounced here. Outside of the obvious and central football theme, the peculiar cat imagery and references previously introduced become much more prominent. Harding may be a stone-cold killer, but he might have a soft spot for kittens. In one early scene, the killer picks up a kitten by the scruff, cocks his head to the side like Myers, and boops it on the nose in subversion of expectations. It's a silly riff on Myers' handling of dogs. Expect more local commercials to pop up during the game, too, and an eclectic group of football fans invested in its outcome. The commitment to the bit means that the third Saturday in October takes itself a little more seriously, just a smidge, and the longer runtime is felt during the second act. If watched in the recommended viewing order, it can be difficult not to miss the much more energetic pacing of Part 5. It's the Alabama setting and the quirks of its characters that adds a new flavor to a very familiar slasher. Otherwise, this entry doesn't add much else to the conversation on the subgenre's deconstruction. The slasher Homage series with regional specificity works best as a double feature, with the overlap between them and the respective period aesthetics creating a unique cinematic experiment. It's impressive what Burleson's achieved and recreated, likely with so little when viewed as two pieces of a whole. The third Saturday in October may not be nearly as entertaining as Part 5, but it is a fascinating exercise in nostalgia. Horrorscope taps Jacob Batalon, Avantika, Alana Boden and Adain Bradley as leads. Birth charts and moon signs have been all the rage over the past few years, with friends gathering together to talk about why their sun in Cancer makes them cry all day, I'm a Cancer, so no shots fired, and why Mercury being in retrograde caused them to lose the apartment they were hoping for. But things surrounding the Zodiac are about to take a sinister turn with the announcement of the leading call sheet for Anna Hallberg and Spencer Cohen's Horrorscope. Deadline revealed today that the feature has tapped Jacob Batalon, John Watt Spider-Man Trilogy, Alana Boden, The Invitation, Uncharted, Adain Bradley, Industry, and Avantika, Senior Year, to star with an ensemble set to include Humberly Gonzalez, Utopia Falls, and Wolfgang Novogratz, Feel the Beat. Horrorscope, which is an adaptation of the 1991 novel of the same name penned by Nicholas Adams, will tell the story of a reading gone wrong. Hoping to learn more about themselves and what their futures may hold, a crew of pals in their 20s head out to get their horoscopes professionally read. But soon, things turn deadly as members of the group begin to die in ways that are eerily related to their cosmic writings. The feature will see the remaining pals race to understand if their fates can be undone or if the future is set in stone. The original book, which was a piece of classic horror reading if you were of a certain age in the early 90s, had its protagonists being chased down by a sadistic serial killer, but whether that plot will be roped in remains to be seen. Frequent collaborators, Hallberg and Cohen co-wrote the film's script and will also make their first foray as co-directors with it. Screen Gems and Alloy Entertainment are the studios behind the piece, with Alloy being the company backing the original publication by Adams. Alloy's Leslie Morgenstein and Elisa Koplovitz-Dutton will produce alongside Ground Control Scott Glassgold. Cohen and Hallberg will join as executive producers. Screen Gems Scott Strauss, Michael Beitor, and Laria Perara will oversee. Gonzalez has landed credits in Working Moms, In the Dark, Ginny and Amp, Georgia, to name a few, over the course of her career. For Novogratz, his credits include Feel the Beat, Sierra Burgess is a Loser, The Last Summer, The Half of It, and Yes, God, Yes. The film's stars have successful backgrounds in major blockbuster hits. In Batalon's case, many will recognize him as Ned, the best friend to Tom Holland's Spider-Man Peter Parker in the what's-helmed Spider-Man trilogy. Next, he'll be stepping into two different leading roles, one as the titular character in SYFY's Reginald the Vampire and the other as a co-lead with Kevin Hart in Netflix's robbery thriller, Lift. Most recently on the big screen, Boden has been spotted in Uncharted and will soon take a turn in another Screen Gems feature, The Invitation. She'll also be hitting smaller screens this summer in Flowers in the Attic, The Origins. Bradley recently nabbed a role in the horror film, Wrong Turn, The Foundation, and was also featured in Paul A. Kaufman's 2020 drama, Butter. Along with her starring role in Netflix's Senior Year, Avantika has credits in notable projects including Spin and Diary of a Future President. At the moment, Horrorscope has not revealed a release date. /back alien invasion movie compared to Attack the Block and acquired by Shudder. Aliens are headed to the Arctic in the upcoming sci-fi invasion film /back, and Deadline reports today that ILJE Films and Shudder have acquired the film for US release. Directed by Nyla Inukzuk, /back is expected to be released in theaters and on VOD digital before streaming on Shudder later this year. It was a dream to make /back alongside my talented teenage cast in one of the most remote and beautiful places on the planet, and I am thrilled to be partnering with ILJE Films Shudder to bring our quirky alien movie to a wider audience, said Inukzuk. We look forward to working with our new friends at ILJE Films Shudder, fellow genre nerds who we feel really appreciate /back and all its heartfelt horror love. In /back, Micah and her ragtag friends discover an alien invasion in their tiny Arctic hamlet, and it's up to them to fight back. Utilizing makeshift weapons and their horror movie knowledge, the aliens soon realize that you don't mess with the girls from Pang. /back stars Melissa Hood, Nalajos Ellsworth, and Chelsea Prusky. Nyla Inukzuk and Amp, Ryan Cavan penned the screenplay. Inukzuk's featured debut premiered at this year's SXSW, where our own Trace Thurman reviewed the film. Thurman called it a delightful throwback to 80s gateway horror that errs on the side of sweetness in lieu of outright scares. The film hails from Mixtape VR, Scythia Films, Stellar Citizens, and Red Marrow. Producers are Nyla Inukzuk, The Witch producer Daniel Beckerman, Christopher Yerkovich, Alex Ordanis, Stacia Glock McDonald, and Ethan Lazar. /back alien invasion movie compared to Attack the Block and acquired by Shudder. Aliens are headed to the Arctic in the upcoming sci-fi invasion film /back, and Deadline reports today that ILJE Films and Shudder have acquired the film for US release. Directed by Nyla Inukzuk, /back is expected to be released in theaters and on VOD digital before streaming on Shudder later this year. It was a dream to make /back alongside my talented teenage cast in one of the most remote and beautiful places on the planet, and I am thrilled to be partnering with ILJE Films Shudder to bring our quirky alien movie to a wider audience, said Inukzuk. We look forward to working with our new friends at ILJE Films Shudder, fellow genre nerds who we feel really appreciate /back and all its heartfelt horror love. In /back, Micah and her ragtag friends discover an alien invasion in their tiny Arctic hamlet, and it's up to them to fight back. Utilizing makeshift weapons and their horror movie knowledge, the aliens soon realize that you don't mess with the girls from Pang. /back stars Melissa Hood, Nalajos Ellsworth, and Chelsea Prusky. Nyla Inukzuk and Amp, Ryan Cavan penned the screenplay. Inukzuk's featured debut premiered at this year's SXSW, where our own Trace Thurman reviewed the film. Thurman called it a delightful throwback to 80s gateway horror that errs on the side of sweetness in lieu of outright scares. The film hails from Mixtape VR, Scythia Films, Stellar Citizens, and Red Marrow. Producers are Nyla Inukzuk, The Witch producer Daniel Beckerman, Christopher Yerkovich, Alex Ordanis, Stacia Glock McDonald, and Ethan Lazar.